Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I'll be your presenter today. Today we're talking about handling duplicates. So these are individuals that have been entered into either membership or donations more than once. Unfortunately, it does happen. There is a safeguard in the program that will alert you if that name already exists, but has to match first name and last name for it to realize that name already exists. So it doesn't always catch them, but it is helpful. There is a document today. Let me pull it up for you here. So if you go to churchwindows.com and you go to our resource center and type the word duplicates, there's a previously done video out here, but then there's also this document. It's right here. This is the guide that I'm using for today. It's kind of long, but it's pretty good. There's a lot of good information in here about identifying multiple versions of someone, and then once you identify them, deciding, okay, which one do I need to keep, and then moving everything to that one you're going to keep, okay? I am recording the webinar today, so I will have it edited and up on the website here today for you to rewatch or share with someone else. Okay, if you have questions, please put them in to the Q&A section on your Zoom toolbar, and I'll do my best to get you an answer that way. All right. So let me open up donations. A couple points to kind of talk through before we start the presentation. Handling duplicates is a multi-step process. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, your first step is going to be identifying your duplicates. So how many versions of this person do you have in the database? So what's the cleanup going to look like? How many records do you have for the same person? Once you kind of get a feel for how many you have, well, there's two, maybe three, then you kind of need to take a moment and look at each of those records and identify what part of the program they came from. So is it a donations giver, meaning it was a record that only exists in the donations module, or is it a record over from membership, whether it's a member, a visitor, or possibly some other category that you've set up? Once you kind of figure out what type of givers you're working with, then you need to actually go to each record and look at the data and look at the information on that record to see which one has the most or the best information, okay? So giving can easily be transferred with one single click to move from an incorrect or a duplicate to the one you want to keep. Attendance, same thing. Attendance, you can move in just a click to get everything to the right place. So when you are looking at your givers and you're trying to decide, okay, which one do I need to keep moving forward? I wouldn't let giving, giver number, or attendance be your main driver for who you keep. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to keep this version because they have the most donations. That's an easy transfer. What I would use as an important thing is going to be the data that they have over in the membership module. Okay, so like I said, you have donations givers. Those records just exist in donations. If you're dealing with a bunch of duplicates and one is a donations giver, that is probably not the one that I would keep if I have a membership record for them, because membership is going to track so much more than donations is. Okay, so if we open up people and we look here in membership, we can see if I'm comparing records, to me, I'm going to go with the one that has the most information here filled out and then move everything to that. So I'm going to go with the one that has the birth date, that has the baptism date, that has the status code, that has the good address. That's really important kind of main point when cleaning up duplicates for me is I'm going to go with the record that has the most information so I have less work to move it to the one that I'm going to keep. Okay? I hope that makes sense. I'll show you here in a minute. But handling duplicates, best place to start is going to be in donations in manage givers, all right? Manage givers is a great place for you to see how many versions of that person exist in membership and in donation. So if you just go and look over a membership for people, you're not going to see any of your donations givers because those only exist here. Manage givers is going to show you those donations givers and it's going to show you those records over in membership as well, all in one place, okay? So in the document, we're talking about James. I'm going to scroll down to James here, and I'm going to show you, let me grab my, actually use my drawing tools. I always forget about them. I'm going to show you here. We have a James, and a James. Okay, so we actually have 3 James here in this list. Now, when we're looking at James, we can see there is a James. This column is super important here. This tells us where the James record originated. So this version's in membership. This version's in membership, but it has a V, which tells us it's a visitor. This one doesn't have an M or any letter, which tells us it's a member. And then this one here has a D, which tells us also over here that they're from the donations module, okay? So right off the bat, I can see I have 3 Jameses. I can see 2 are from membership, one's a visitor, one's a member, and 1 is a donations record, okay? I can also see that 1 has a giver number. So that's something else we're going to have to take into consideration. Do we want to move the giver number to the one that we're going to keep, or are we just going to get rid of the giver number completely? Okay, so these are all things you kind of have to think about. Right off the cuff, I see that I already have a record for James that exists over in membership. I have 2. That means I will not be keeping the donations giver one because I'm going to bet that there's good information on my record over in membership that I want to keep. Okay, so with that being said, now we need to go over into membership and we need to see of those 2 versions of James, which one has the best information. So I'm going to come up here to the person lookup and I'm going to type in James and I'm going to see right off the bat, I have a James with an address and a James without. Again, you have to make the call here. To me, having an address on someone is probably a good sign that that record's going to have better information. So, and I just set this up before the class, but as we can see, we have James, we have an address, we have a directory report order. Again, not a lot of information. Most of you will probably have a decent amount of information picked in here. Let's go to the visitor one. Again, this one's really empty. It doesn't even have an address. So to me, my brain says, okay, I want to keep the one that has at least the good address. And there's no information here that I need to worry about moving. Okay, so we're going to keep the other one. With that being said, I'm going to go back up to the other version of James with the address, and I'm going to click right in here next to his first name, and I'm just going to put a little star. This is what's going to help me tell them apart. Granted, you can tell them apart because one has no letter, one has a V, and one has a D, but that's not always going to be the situation. Putting an asterisk on the one you're going to keep is going to be a really nice way for you to see, okay, this is the good one. The other ones we're getting rid of. Okay? I'm going to hit save, right? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to donations. I'm going to close out of manage givers and I'm going to start transferring any giving. I want to make sure I get all the giving to the one with the asterisk. So up here at the top, we're going to go to givers, transfer donations. And again, this screen is going to allow you to take giving, pull it off of one giver and put it to another. Okay. First thing we have to do is adjust the date range. I'm going all the way back to 2000. That's just the number I like to use to make sure I get any giving from previous years. If you just bought the program last year, obviously 2000 is not going to be the year you need to go to, so use your best judgment for picking your range. But it doesn't hurt to extend that range a little bit to make sure you encompass all giving, okay? From giver on the left, I'm going to start to type James. Keep in mind, you may need to check this inactive box. There could be a record of him that's been inactivated over the years that has giving on it that you need to move as well, okay? Now, once we start typing, only the records with giving are going to show up here in the from giver box. So if you start typing somebody's name that you know has a duplicate, but that duplicate one isn't coming up, then that tells you there's no giving to move on that person. So the only search results you're going to see are givers that actually have giving that need to be moved, okay, or that could be moved. All right, so I'm going to first choose the one with the D because we know we're not keeping that one. Ooh, see, I do have some old giving on here, 2013. And I'm going to come over here to the right, my to giver. This is who I'm moving my giving to. I'm choosing James with the asterisk because that's the good one, okay? This box in the middle, you need to make sure you check this that says these two givers are the same person. This lets the software know you're actually cleaning up a duplicate, and it won't create any reversing entries off this one. It'll simply remove these transactions and put them on the new person. I'm going to hit transfer. Are you sure? We're going to say yes. Now the giving has left this record and it's over here. All right. Same thing. We're going to go back to the left again. We're going to type James. And we're going to choose the one with the V now. There's one gift here. We're going to definitely want to move that one over. So James Kildare V, James with the asterisk. Yes, we want to move that giving. And the giving's moved. Okay, so now we have all the giving on the person that we're wanting to keep. Now let's talk about the giver number because that is prevalent here. So up under givers, I'm going to go to manage numbers. To me, manage numbers is the best screen you can use anytime you need to change a giver number. If you don't use a giver number, don't worry about this. But for today's example, obviously we do have a giver number that we're using. So I am going to put in James's name up here to find him. We can see that the James with the D had the number starting a while ago. And what I want to do is delete the number off of this version of James so I can then put it to the version of James that we're keeping. Okay, so I'm going to put in an end date if you want. I'm not doing an end date because I want to delete the number and then start it back again on this day for the corrected version of James. Minus sign here off to the right. I'm going to choose to delete it. Deleting a giver number does not delete giving. Giving is attached to the name. We're just removing the number. And then up here, I need to choose my James that I'm keeping moving forward. Selecting that one, hitting add new number, typing in the number that I want him to have, and then that start date, I'm going way back to 2014 and hit OK. And as long as that number hasn't been in use, which it isn't because we just deleted it, it's going to let you put that number back in there on the correct version. Okay. All right. So that's cleaning up giving, giver number. Now let's talk about pledging. If you are not a pledging church, obviously this doesn't apply to you, but if you do track pledges in Church Windows donations, you do want to check or verify where the pledges are. Now, some people aren't worried about pledges from, so many years ago, and that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. But if you want to make sure you have all the pledging on the right person, go to this Pledges by Giver tab and just select each one. Nope, we have no pledge for the visitor version of James. Here's the donations giver. Look, we do have a pledge here. This pledge occurred back in 2017. If we are wanting to move this to the other record, you just need to hit the minus sign and then re-enter it on the record of James that we're keeping. Honestly, this pledge is 8 years old. Not too terribly worried about keeping track of this, so I'm going to come over here to the right and I'm simply going to remove this pledge. You are going to get kind of an intense message about deleting it. It's just a warning. You can definitely click OK through it if you want. Yep, I want to get rid of it, and now it's gone. Okay, now let's look at the other James with the asterisk. No pledging here. And again, if he decides to start pledging, this is the one that you would put the pledging to. All right. Now, let's go back to Manage Givers because we want to talk about how to get rid of these other records of James that we're not using anymore. So we're going to go to the one with the D. If you have a donations giver that you're wanting to make inactive or delete, you have to do that here in the Manage Givers screen in Donations. Any records that have this MEM that are from membership have to be handled in the membership module because that's where the record originated. Okay, so I'm going to highlight James Kildare with the D. I'm going to hit delete. The program is either going to let you or it's not. It's pretty simple. So if it lets you delete this record, say yes, and that's definitely one we want to get rid of. If you find that it gives you a message that you can't delete it, that means there's either a pledge on it or there's giving on it. That could also be reversed giving. So any transaction, whether it's a positive or a negative, that you have on a record is still a transaction and it will not let you delete this person. If that's the case, no big deal. You would just hit this inactive button over here off to the right. Right. Oops. Hold on. Let me switch back to my pointer. For a donations giver, it's right here. This is the box you would check, and that would hide them moving forward. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about that membership one. We're going to close this. I'm just going to minimize it actually. And we're going to come back to our person lookup. And we are going to look for our James with the V. This is the one we decided that we're going to get rid of. And again, up here at the top, we're going to try to delete it, see if it yells at us or barks at us or not, if we can or can't. If it doesn't let you delete it, here's that inactive box. Same thing, you need to check them inactive. You could put a reason in there like duplicate cleanup, what have you, and then again, that will hide that record moving forward. Since James is the only person in this household, I'm going to do delete family over here on the left. And I just need to confirm that I'm sure I want to do this. And I'm going to say yes. And then this record will be gone. Okay. So now let's go back to James. And we're going to remove that asterisk here and save it now that he's the only one. One thing I do want to point out that is not in the document is the attendance transfer. So if I go up here under attendance and I do attendance transfer, this screen functions exactly like the transfer donation screen that I showed you. If you do track individual attendance on your people from membership and you have attendance on the one of the records that you're wanting to get rid of, this is going to allow you to do the from attendee to attendee just like we did with donations and move any of the donation, or I'm sorry, any of the attendance off of the one you're not wanting anymore to the one that you're going to want to keep. So not everybody tracks attendance, like manually checks everyone when they were there, but if you do, you can use this feature to move attendance as well.